The RSS chief recently said the era of obedience is over, days after a minister quit over NEET protests. And then later, Prashant Kishor walked into a BJP stronghold and emerged a winner and credited Gen Z for his win. So, in this edition of Talking Sense with Srini, with the Federal's editor in chief, Mr. Srinivasan, we discuss whether the Sangh is losing Gen Z and if its ideology is becoming irrelevant and distant for the generation. Welcome to the show, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
So, the RSS chief Mohan Bhagwat himself has said that the era of obedience is over. Is he quietly admitting the RSS old style of obedience, which is kind of their base tenant, doesn't work in this generation anymore with Gen Z?
Well, what he's saying is right. The realization that such a statement has to be made must have come to him. But there is a difference between what he says and whether he actually can deliver it. There is a difference between the two. By very nature, RSS as an organization or the concept of the entire, Hindutva, that Hindutva should be something which should be able to kind of guide power in this country, the forces of Hindutva. I mean, that, if that is objective, then how do you implement this in a country like India, which is so pluralistic? You take language, you take the way people
Culture.
want to, yeah, language, culture. There are a whole lot of things which differs every 100 kilometer, 200 kilometer. Even language differs. There are other things. So how is he going to do that? For instance, if you look at the way the fallout of many things over the last 10, 12 years we have seen, what it means to see a regime which is more veering towards right. So if they're trying to get into food habits, trying to get into how the way people should clothe, what kind of clothes they should wear, it also comes into gender equality. There is a big question mark on that. Gen Z, certainly a very different thinking about that.
Very true.
You see, and the next issue is about the way, the general perception about global issues. See, Gen Z is born in an information age. They have born with computers around them, cell phones around them. So the information is available all the time to them on a tap, literally. So they are, in that sense, much more globalized. They are not just getting inputs from a geographical construct, whether it is India. It goes beyond. They get global information quickly, and they can relate to all that. So how are you going to talk, and especially in an urban audience, this language, and then expect them that they would kind of fall in line? Or how far is RSS willing to change, to adapt to what they think? I think it's going to be pretty difficult.
That's exactly I was about to ask you next. Like, is this outreach now? They are going to have an outreach program with Gen Z. Like every party is now having it. Modi is also reaching to them with the Insta reels and all. But is this just a kind of narrative control, or will they actually be able to kind of reach out to Gen Z and then like get back them?
I think it's also partly a knee-jerk reaction, because it was kind of taken for granted that youth backs this regime very strongly, and women and youth, women largely out of the various welfare schemes which actually reach them, and the second, youth of this country. Now, this perhaps understanding has got slightly dislodged after the Cockroach Janata Party movement in Delhi. That Gen Z
Yes.
thinks very differently. Now, there have been various analyses. Is it just an urban phenomena, or does it also spreads to rural areas or semi-rural areas? That's a big question. So we still don't know the extent of how far and in what way Gen Z thinks. But from whatever available information, one can certainly say that it also differs geographically. The southern parts and Gen Z living there, or the eastern part, could be thinking differently and the way that the people in the West think. But specifically, one can say that the north, specifically Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, and specifically more about Uttar Pradesh, there is a large, uh, you know, youngsters living in, mofussil towns, not large towns, neither villages, intermediate. In these places, they certainly adopted and imbibed this ideology into them very closely, because that's what they have seen. And many of them also got lumpenized, and you could say that they are the foot soldiers of this movement. You could see them. And they have imbibed it, this whole concept of, the Hindutva, I would say, that many of them have imbibed. So it's very difficult to. So there is a slice of people which are actually even young, who could be falling into that definition of Gen Z and still thinking that way. So let's not think that as if whole of India thinks homogeneously, whole urban population thinks homogeneously, as if this messaging is only for Gen Z and it will be received, all over the country. It's not like that. So there is a support base which is still there with BJP and RSS, and which roots for them. That we have to keep in mind.
Like you said, it's not just CJP protests. You were talking about Bihar also. Like Bihar now, Prashant Kishor has gone into one of the BJP stronghold and won it, and he has credited Gen Z for it. So is it like does it look like Gen Z doesn't have an ideological loyalty, but they want to like go for anyone who's outside of the system?
So there are two things here. One is you're talking of an electoral victory and electoral loss. I mean, let's come to that. But uh, what has happened is, perhaps, I mean, this is again, studies need to be done. The answers to these questions actually has to be given by sociologists. But what I read and what I understand is that obviously things are changing. Even the aspirations, it's not that it limits to some areas. Aspirations all around India, especially educated population, educated young people who actually aspire to have some jobs, white collar jobs specifically, those who are either graduated and are looking for, and it could be from Bihar also, it could be from UP also. Again, there is no homogeneity in that.
True.
There are people who are actually could not come that far and they could have believed in that. And there is also a certain belief, a certain more, bent towards religion. Religiosity has also increased last few, at least last one decade or so. Now, how far it has traveled, whether it retains the same fervor is to be seen. But if you had to look at what happened in Delhi, that also seemed to have taken a dent. Now, coming to the other question of the
Ideological loyalty.
no, the electoral victory of Prashant Kishor in Bihar. Certainly, it's an important thing. Obviously, if you look at the data, a whole lot of youngsters seem to have voted for that, and it is a direct impact of Cockroach Jantar Party seem to have had on Bihar's electorate. But let's also remember that it's actually most urbanized, most elite politically constituency, because it's part of Patna. So it's not some faraway place. And the other thing is it has lowest turnout. So therefore, again, there are other combination of factors which might have helped, but certainly Gen Z movement had a great impact in that. That one should admit.
But the CJP protest and like Patna, this election, are because of this, are we quick to like put all Gen Z together in like one? They are urban, they are like this way. Are we quick to judge? Are we jumping the gun here?
No, obviously, one has to be cautious in saying that. You cannot assume anything in a country of this size and this. So one can only draw some conclusions. But therefore, to assume that a whole of India and all of Gen Z think in a similar way would be a big mistake. But yes, one can certainly say that the trend is moving towards, like even Bhagwat agrees, uh, which is very well known, that generally people of young generation do not like to be lectured, and this is not true of only Gen Z. It's happened to us also when we were young or you were young. The just when people are growing up from teenage to the next adulthood, this is a very common phenomena, that there is a certain resistance which always happens. So but what seems to have happened is now it has far more acute, because again there are other issues which one could say, the both father and mother working, there is also a certain economic distress.
Distress.
People have to actually do much more to keep the family going. Aspirants have gone up, and wherever there are
Cost of living, real estate.
yeah, all those things, and very little time is spent by parents with their children. The social integration, the way it used to happen, all those things are obviously come down, and these are all factors. So the conversations have reduced within families, among families, within society. All those things are also responsible for that. So it's not just one single factor which we can point out, but a larger trend certainly seems to be moving in that direction.
That's actually true, because it's not just happening in India. We saw it in Nepal. It's happening in Kenya, and there is protest in even now Pakistan. So, is this global wave of Gen Z rebellion, if we can call it, uh, that wave is happening in India also? But will this wave be eventually absorbed by the political parties, like that has also happened earlier? So will RSS or like BJP or like any party will be able to like get them back into their ambit?
Yeah, it's a tough question to answer, because the only example we have so far is Cockroach Jantar Party. So CJP so far hasn't given any indication of aligning with any political force so far, and also the major political party, which is Congress, did not show any great keenness to align itself with CJP, uh, because they were wary that partly they were part of Aam Aadmi Party, because the main leader of the party, Dipke. So he's actually a former social media manager of Aam Aadmi Party. So Abhijit Dipke, they looked at him with suspicion. In fact, there's another person called Ranka who was still recently with Aam Aadmi Party. So I think Congress Party therefore looked at them very suspiciously. So the biggest beneficiary of this agitation as a political one, if Congress Party would have attempted, it could have taken a different color also. It would have been immediately politicized and say it's an opposition party which is trying to create disturbance and those kinds of things. So Congress, in a way, kept itself out because of its own suspicion. I don't know whether out of wisdom, but certainly the suspicion that they are part of AAP. Aam Aadmi Party did extend their support, but beyond that, one do not see so far whether the very little to suggest that they have become a part of the political spectrum. Now, your question is whether they'll be absorbed by political parties.
Yes.
Now, again, it depends on the way CJP goes from here onwards. If they have their own political ambitions, or what kind of or they continue in this path for some time. All those things have to be seen. Now, there is a new trend, if you notice, that the shape of political parties are now coming in the form of some kind of a social movement. Even in the case of, say, Bihar's case, Prashant Kishor started something else. He started a movement, and then he declared a party. Similarly, if you look at Tamil Nadu, the most popular, BJP leader here, Annamalai,
Annamalai is
has
like
decided to launch
a movement
a
rather than a
movement
party.
rather than a party. So I think most of them are also realizing that, first you have to make a mark. So some of these you can call it post-ideological parties. For instance, what Aam Aadmi Party also was born out of a movement which is to eliminate or eradicate corruption. I mean, those principles are now,
Being dented.
yeah. So those, yeah, those they got their own, like you said, dents. But I think this is another thing which is happening. And here also the ideologies are getting flexible. For instance, in Mahatma Gandhi's party's case, you cannot firmly say where do they stand on which side of the
True,
divide.
true.
Uh, it says even in case of Annamalai, who was firmly
With the
advocating BJP's line, now suddenly talks more like a secular person. So I think these lines are diminishing, and like Prashant Kishor has shown, it's actually moving more towards what is that these movements can give to the people. I think people are looking in some nature, you can also call transactional. People are also looking forward that what is it I'm going to get out of this. So, in that sense, the last 10 or 12 years of the Hindutva, if people, youngsters enthusiastically participated, even I have to say a slice of youngsters participated in, say, Uttar Pradesh or Bihar in the cow belt as they call derisively, but in entire northern belt, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, even if they participated and ended up doing, something which they perhaps didn't desire. For instance, polarizing communities, polarizing on the basis of religion. All those things have happened. But possibly they would have thought at some point of time that actually this is going to lead them to somewhere. But then when they say that, it hasn't benefited them, it hasn't added to their, their own social value, the economic value, more of that it hasn't benefited them. It is not taking them higher in the
Social strata, economic
social strata, economic strata, moving upwards, then the disappointment comes. So that could also be a factor because it's gone through now nearly a decade and 12 years, because that could also would have got a dent, and therefore there could be a rethink in that sense as well.
As we talk about Hindutva and Gen Z, there is also an extremely opposite phenomena that happened in Tamil Nadu as well. Like DMK. DMK also lost, and it's mostly because of the Gen Z wave that's being told. So it's not any ideology. Like it's not just they have a problem with Hindutva ideology. They also have like a kind of aversion. Are Gen Z becoming, if I can term it, ideologically secular? That they just don't want to be told what to think. Is that what's happening?
Well, again, when these are the questions, these are very difficult questions to answer. Maybe a sociologist or a political scientist can answer these questions. But if you see what has happened to, Tamil Nadu politics and Vijay's victory, it came from nowhere. Established political party like DMK and AIDMK, who have actually sown seeds of Dravidian politics here and been thriving for last 69, nearly 70 years, suddenly found them out of power. Why did it happen? It's a big question. How did that shift happen? Now, here something has happened which is similar to what happened during Mayawati's time in Uttar Pradesh. So there is a similar profile of Dalits in Uttar Pradesh and in Tamil Nadu, 20% Dalits. And here also there has been a certain aspiration that it has to go beyond being in power. It actually power sharing, that the representative of that party should also be ministers. So I think that movement had happened here. So what has now happened is, you see the cabinet of Vijay has minorities, both Christians, Muslim, and Dalits, and also two Brahmins. So which is very different combination. So similarly, what happened? Mayawati could manage this in 2007, or when she became, then she brought in this whole new element of Dalit plus Brahmin and swept the polls. So she did it methodically. Here, I don't know how much of that was designed, whether it happened by design or by accident, I have no clue. If the election managers of Vijay actually devised it and reached the goal, kudos to them.
Right. Lastly, sir, there is a sense of irreverence among Gen Z, but on it is exactly opposite to the Hindutva ideology of having a structure, hierarchy. So that's how it thrives. Like even how the BJP has Modi at the top. So that's how the structure is. So this is too extreme of extreme. So will RSS be able to cut slack for Gen Z and then come down to them and at the cost of their structure?
Yeah, again, it's an interesting question. See, again, when we constantly say Gen Z, because it's a certain demography which has been defined as people below the age of, I think, 30.
Yeah.
But I think what we are forgetting is that this country has one of the youngest population in the world. There's a large young population. So, I was saying earlier that, young populations normally do rebel. I mean, they have a different ideas. It's not strictly rebellion in that sense. They think differently from their elders. So this is nothing new. It has been happening for a while. But what now seems to be happened is they are purely from this digital age, and that's why this definition. But then whole lot of millennials who come after that, they're also part of this. So this age group is much beyond this. And I think those are the people who are actually bringing this change. Now, whether they'll overnight, your question is whether they'll turn obedient or expect them to change their colors the way, a certain structure of RSS or certain way it's been functioning. I think it's very difficult. I think it's very difficult for that to happen because like I said earlier, it is not just the drill of having a physical drill. It actually goes beyond the way the thinking is. That the whole philosophy of RSS, that it becomes Hindutva first, or a certain construct in their mind. So it doesn't. It's not a natural fit in that sense.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for that insightful conversation. Thank you, everyone, for watching it.
Thank you.